Just have the first few minutes of the video be me undressing. That'll get the views. It's going really well. I'm not stuck in my shirt. Hello everybody, it is Tom and welcome to another video. So you may notice the bookshelf is back, and that is because I moved my desk a little bit again, and I was close enough to the bookshelf again that I was like, let's put the bookshelf in the back. And that's fascinating, I'm sure. But anyway, so this video will probably be on the short side because I'm going through it, y'all. There's a lot happening right now. Briefly, before we get into the actual video, and feel free to skip this if you literally do not care. Yeah, so for the last few months, my apartment has been, let's say, inhabited by a lot of unwelcome roommates in the form of a civilization of cockroaches that have taken up residence behind my kitchen cabinets. They are numerous and they get into everything and on everything, and I've had to put all of my food items into sealed containers. Nothing has been in my cabinets for about 3 months now. It's all been packed in sealed containers out of the kitchen. And there have been so many, pest control keeps coming in, but it's just, they won't leave. They won't leave. So I'm currently trying to get out of my lease so I can move to a smaller, cheaper, and hopefully cockroach-free apartment. So as a result, I have been paring down my belongings, selling lots of stuff, doing lots of things, looking at apartments, and trying to figure out if I can actually finance this move, but I have to. So we're trying to figure things out. Also, I went to the doctor and she's like, yeah, those allergy symptoms you've been having are probably because of the cockroaches, because apparently a lot of people are allergic to cockroaches and it seems like I'm one of them. So it's been a time. So all of that aside, today we are here to talk about romance. As you may know, I'm a big fan of books that center around queer romance. You will see evidence of this in my bookshelf. I think the majority of these books on my queer bookshelf feature some kind of romance. So I thought it would be fun to talk about some of the tropes that we encounter in romance books and just romance media in general, and which ones I love, which ones I hate, and then we'll open the discussion to you folks, and you can sound off in the comments with your favorite tropes or least favorite tropes from romance. I don't know why I feel like I have to roll that R every time, but here we are. So let's start with my favorite tropes. So the ones that if I see a book with this trope, I will pick it up. And sometimes that is to my detriment because often I'm so excited about the premise that I don't bother to read the first few pages carefully. And then I buy the book and I'm like, oh, this is objectively not well written and I don't know what I was thinking. And let me also say that this is a judgment-free zone. If all of these tropes can be kind of cheesy, and that's okay. We're allowed to like cheesy things. And I say that as a vegan. So, the first trope that we will talk about is fake dating or fake relationships. Now, I will admit, this is one of the cheesier tropes that I enjoy, but I freaking love a good fake dating book. One of the things that I've noticed about the tropes that I like is that they tend to be ones that built into the trope is a slow burn, or built into the trope is the fact that people don't jump into bed together immediately. And as I talked about in my last video of this genre, talking about being on the asexual spectrum and reading romance, it's hard for me to get into books that focus so much on the physical aspect of the relationship, or books where people meet and immediately they're like, let's fall into bed together. And as I said in that video, that's fine, that's cool. I have no problem with people doing that or enjoying that or reading that kind of book. It just isn't for me because I can't relate. So the thing about the fake dating trope is that we start off with two people who are pretending they're in a relationship and then slowly grow to realize, usually, that they actually are attracted to one another. But whatever the case, there's some time. My favorite part of any book centered on romance is that period of time when the people are getting to know each other. And in the fake dating situation, often they don't know each other that well. Maybe they're acquaintances, maybe it's the sibling of a friend, maybe they literally just met. But there's that wonderful period where they're getting to know each other, but built into it is this necessity for doing things that usually people who know each other very well would do. People who are in a romantic relationship, hugging, kissing, holding hands, being together a lot, talking about hopes and dreams, stuff like that. I just think it's a really interesting concept, and I always love it when I see it. And the most recent one, I recently reread Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and that's a good one. Of course, Date Me, Bryson Keller, one of our favorite. Oh, it's on the shelf. There it is, right? It's hard to point. Date Me, Bryson Keller is another good one. So there's just a lot of good fake dating stories out there, and I'm working on one as well, though it's a little bit different. It's more of a fake husband situation, but we don't need to talk about that. All right, so moving on. My next favorite romance trope is enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers. And as I said before, one of the reasons I think I like this trope so much is that, again, it's that feeling of there's a slow burn built into the trope. Usually in an enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers story, the two main characters start out not liking each other very much. I mean, that's what it is. They don't like each other. And then over time, they grow to realize how much they actually are suited to each other, or, they find out new and surprising things about each other. And I just find that really satisfying. Now, with that said, I don't really like stories where their rivalry or their enemy is really severe. I don't want it to be you murdered my mother, but let's get together, So I'm talking more in the terms of we just never got along. Our families are rivals in business, or I thought you did this thing to me that you actually didn't do, or it was a misunderstanding. Or even the classic Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice. I love that kind of thing where we start off with kind of a rocky relationship and over time just realize that we are perfect for each other. And I know I just mentioned Boyfriend Material, but that is also a kind of enemies to lovers thing, because they start off not really liking each other, and it's a good book, okay? It's a good book. So I like the fake dating. I like enemies or rivals to lovers. And I also really like, and this is one that I didn't think I would like, but I do, mysteriously, but famous person or royalty or a reality show romance. And there are quite a few of those on my shelf. So there's If This Gets Out, which is a boy band romance, and Red, White, and Royal Blue, of course, Prince of England and son of the first woman president of the United States. And then The Charm Offensive, they're all right together. The Charm Offensive takes place on a reality show, really good book. And even I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman is about a boy band. So, though that one's not so much a romance, but there's many along those lines. But there's just something I really enjoy about that, of I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's a wish fulfillment thing, or being found special by someone who is considered to be special themselves. I have no idea why I like this trope so much, but I really do. I really enjoy it. Maybe it's just because it's also something different. It kind of gives you a chance to live vicariously in the life of someone who is famous, but also see all the bad things that they have to encounter, and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just really enjoy that trope. Okay, and the last one I'm going to talk about is the sports romance, which again is a surprise to me that I would like it so much, because I am not a sports person. I am not a fan of most sports. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that people who play sports are often placed in a certain category, and there are expectations for their behavior. And often there's, a lot more homophobia, a lot more heteronormative expectations. So to see like two members of a sports team, or even rival members of a sports team, or one hockey player and one figure skater, for example, there's just something really nice about seeing people in that situation nonetheless bucking those norms and going with their heart and letting themselves subvert tradition and get together with someone else. So anyway, so my mention of the hockey player and the figure skater actually shows up in two different books that I really enjoy, one of which is the graphic novel Check Please, which, I mean, technically they're both hockey players, but one of them is a former figure skater. But my favorite one, which I talked about literally in the last installment of whatever this is, Tom Talks About Books, is the Breakaway series by E.L. Massey. The two main characters, Eli and Alex. So Alex is a very young captain of a pro hockey team, kind of famous as well, so we have that trope in there as well. And Eli is a figure skater who suffered a traumatic brain injury in a car accident. He was on his way towards the Olympics, but then was injured, and so now he's kind of working through that and trying to find joy in ice skating again. It's just such a good series. It's just such a good book, such good characters, such a healthy relationship. But anyway, so now let's move on to talking about the tropes that I do not enjoy so much. And if one of your favorites is on here, just remember this is totally subjective, and it's absolutely fine if you enjoy these. They're just not my cup of tea. So let's scratch my nose first. Let's talk about tropes I don't really like. Okay, so number one, I'm not a big fan of love triangles. And this may come as a surprise to you if you have noticed the fact that my book, The Boy Who Was Kissed, which is coming out this June, is in fact centered on a love triangle. But it's a nice love triangle. But in general, I don't really like that as the setup. I think one of the reasons I don't like love triangles is that there's built-in interpersonal conflict. Because in a love triangle, usually, if it's not my book, there's very little chance that the three characters are going to get through this without some kind of dramatic and probably extremely negative explosion. Maybe this makes me a boring reader of romance, or just a boring reader in general, but I like to read stories where people are nice to each other and they get along and they're happy and then they end up being happy. And I like it so the conflict comes from outside the relationship. I don't want there to be conflict in the relationship, or if there is, it should be resolved maturely and not be a case of he said this and I thought he said that. I thought he meant this, so we're done. I don't like it when the main conflict of the relationship is the relationship itself. I love it when you have two people uniting against the outside conflict. So when you get to see the strength of their relationship and things are trying to come at them or break them apart, but they are strong against it. And in a love triangle, the relationship is the drama. That is the central conflict. So I'm not such a big fan of that. Another trope I really don't like is the liar revealed. So there are some cases where I will go into a book, where I will read a book, even knowing that this trope is coming. And you can always tell that this trope is coming because the premise is always the main character is basing their relationship with the love interest on a lie. So an example of this, to go back to Alexis Hall again, is 10 Things That Never Happened, which I think is the latest book. But that's an example of a book that I read in spite of knowing that the liar revealed moment was coming, because I like that author and I trusted them to do a good job of it. And they did. It was a really good book. But in general, I don't like that moment. I don't like that setup, because inevitably you have, which takes us into the next trope that I hate, which is when the book hits the 3/4 of the way through point and something has happened where the love interest dumps the main character, and their friends and family also are mad at them, so the main character is alone and just miserable for like an extended period of time, and then they do a big gesture and everything's fine. I understand this structure, but at the same time I hate it. Like, and it is so common in young adult romance books. There are some books where I'll get to like 3/4 of the way through and I just get really tense because I know it's coming. Like, it's coming. And yeah, in general, I really don't like that trope at all. It feels like a very easy way to hit the points that you're supposed to hit, you know, like they meet, they like each other, misunderstanding or something, you know, one of them is being dumb, they break up, the main character is alone and sad, and then from that they emerge stronger and reconcile, they do a big gesture, and happily ever after. It just feels very contrived that this happens every single time in so many of these books. So I'm not a big fan of that structure. Usually what happens is when I get to that point, I start skimming. I'm just like, just get me to the resolution. Just get me to where they make up. Like, I don't need to know about our main character like at the window while rain goes down the panes. I don't need that. The last one I'm going to talk about that I really don't like is connected to enemies to lovers, a trope I love, but should be separate from it because it is not the same. And that is the bully romance. So the situation where the main character and the love interest, they're not just enemies, but one of them is an out-and-out bully. Now, there are layers to this. And, you know, there is something to be said for like the journey, and it's a very gray area because it really depends on how severe the bullying was and how much that person changes and what they do to make amends, and et cetera, et cetera. People do make mistakes. People do sometimes fall in with the wrong crowd. Internalized homophobia is a real thing and often causes people to act in terrible ways. So if you sell it properly, I might be on board. But in general, just in general, not the kind of thing I would seek out. I don't think it's good to encourage the thing they used to say to girls on the playground, where if a boy was mean to her or knocked her down or hit her or something, they would be like, oh, it's because he likes you. Like, no, no, don't do that. Let's not encourage anyone to see physical or emotional abuse as being romantic or being a sign that someone really likes you. I'm sure it does happen, where people don't know what to do with their feelings, and especially if they're queer, don't know how to deal with their internalized homophobia. It makes them act out. It might make them target the person that they secretly love, but that should not be the basis for a healthy relationship. And they need to change. They need to change their behavior a lot before I would be willing to accept them as a romantic interest. So, yes. Okay, so those are my favorite and least favorite tropes, and as I said at the beginning, it's all very subjective. These are just my opinions, and you do not have to agree with me. And in fact, please leave your comments below telling me about your favorite or least favorite tropes. And there are definitely ones that I like and don't like that I haven't mentioned here. And also, I said it was going to be a short video, and it's like 30 minutes long at this point. I'll probably have to cut a lot though, because I've started writing semi-scripts for some of my videos just to help me be able to make them more quickly and more regularly. But this one, as should be very evident, I did not write any sort of a script. So it was mainly just me going off the top of my head, which is a notoriously inadvisable thing to do. So, okay, well, I've got to go make lunch and do other stuff. So thank you so much for watching. And a huge thank you to our Patreon members. A huge thanks to, I can't even remember what I say. And a huge thanks to our patrons who are absolutely amazing and wonderful and fantastic and spectacular and all the good words. And shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, Kent Smither, Kim Engel, and Lauren Javier. Okay, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching, listening, commenting, anything that you do. Thank you for doing it. And have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever time of day it may happen to be. I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.